I'm really glad to be here. But before I start and before I introduce myself, I wanted to tell you one secret. And the secret is, actually, I'm quite nervous. The reason for that is that I have a stage fright that never went away, despite the fact that since I was 6-year-old, I was in a musical school and I had to perform basically every 6 months on my exams. Still, it didn't go away. But why am I telling you that? This is like not really the main topic of that, because I will be speaking today about something completely different. I will be speaking about change. And the reason why I mentioned my stage fright is because it is very similar to how we feel when change happens. So I never managed to get rid of the stage fright, and I had to learn to deal with that. And me telling you this right now is one of the ways how I deal with it. And the other reason is exactly change, because we as people, we prefer to have it stable, to not have too many disruptions in our life. So that's why I chose this kind of entrance for speaking about change. But who am I? My name is Milena Dziąbaj. I originally come from Poland, but I live in Munich now since 14 years in the meantime. I call myself collaboration expert, and the reason for that is because the main topics that I work at or work on, or what are my area of expertise, is team development, facilitating communication, change management, and improving collaboration of groups and teams. And 1 year ago, big change happened in my life, except for the fact that I got married. There was also another change that was not really private. This change was I met my current business partner. She's also here with us today, Nina Kisna, sitting in the second row. We met during my current project, where Nina was also as an external expert. We worked together very well, and she was the one who who convinced me to start my own business parallel to my corporate job that I still have. And yes, Out of the Time Box is our joint collaboration project where we help teams and groups to better work together, and we also help teams going through the change in transitions. If this did not yet convince you that I know what I'm talking about changes, here are also some dry facts. So I have worked in in 4 different industries, very opposite to each other, for big names, in 3 different languages. I took different roles from team management, management coach, workshop facilitator, business analyst, or project lead. I helped more than 20 teams that were multicultural, sometimes co-located, sometimes remote, sometimes hybrid. And I have studied many different things or learned them in some way. I studied technical physics, marketing and management. Then I learned also about project management, both classical and agile. And I'm working also in agile projects, but not only. Yes, so change is inevitable. We cannot stop that. And I was wondering, does anybody know or remember here the band called The Fugees? Rings a bell? Okay, there is some. Good. So The Fugees had around 30 years ago, 1996, this song, Ready or Not, Here I Come, You Can't Hide. I'm gonna find you and take it slowly. I will not sing. And they were not singing about change, but because if they would be thinking about change, this would be how it would be. Yeah, they would have to say, and take it quickly. So change is coming. You can like it, you cannot like it, but you have to deal with it like I deal with my stage fright. You just have to learn how to handle that, how to live with it. And yes, dreams versus reality. If our work environment right now would be surfing, then maybe this is what we would like to have. Calm ocean, nice swimming suit, looking towards the sunset. But actually how it looks like usually is this. I don't know if this rings a bell, but you have to surf the waves, you have to learn it. You cannot control really the ocean. The only thing that you can do, you can learn to surf those waves. So I will be speaking about organizational change. I will give you some strategies how to deal with that, and also balance during the change, how to balance the costs, how to keep people in eye, and how to use the technology for that. So I have here put a couple of information. What do I mean by organizational change? So I mean major modifications in structure, processes, culture, or strategy that have significant impact. And this is important thing. I'm not talking about changing the coffee machine in the kitchen of your office. I'm talking about significant impact on your role, on your workflow, on anything that you have to deal with in your workday. Change management is the process of guiding individuals and organizations through that. As a process, it needs planning, it needs implementing, and it needs managing the impact of this change. And effective change, what do we mean by that? It means you get the results that you want, and those results stay in time. They are not only for 2 weeks, they are staying there for longer. This is what we think when we say effective change. And to achieve that, the change has to be sustainable. So, types of organizational change, a little bit of background so that you know what is what I mean exactly. So structural changes, reorganizations, mergers, acquisitions, technological changes, so all types of new systems, new tools, new software, process changes, so modification in workflows, what do you have to do in your job, cultural changes, this is company values, mission statements or work environment, strategic changes, like taking new business directions or market focus. And now I have also a question to you, not a part of the quiz. What do you think is the most common type of change? Any experiences or guesses?
Process changes.
Which one?
Process.
Process, okay. Any other?
Technology.
Technology.
Nowadays, structural changes.
Okay. Okay. Do you know what is the real answer to this question? All at once. All at once. Or multiple at once. Because if you think about that, you cannot have a structural change or organization without, for example, changing the processes. So it's not always, they're not always all there at once, but if you think about that, you have cultural change when you change processes, you have values change during that, you use new systems when you change processes. So there are so interlocated that it's difficult to say like this is only change on this. Sometimes it's really multiple facets. Okay, and change is an emotional journey. To bring this a little bit closer to you, or to explain you that, why did I pick this, this curve? This is actually Elisabeth Kübler-Ross, was a Swiss psychiatrist who developed this curve to describe something completely different. She wanted to describe the 5 stages of grief. But right now, this curve is also being used to describe how people feel when they go through change. So on this, here have morale and productivity, time, and here a little hint what to focus on in all of those phases. I also brought an example. I will not explain that theoretically. I will explain that on 2 examples. One of them is from work life, and one of them is from private life. So the examples are: management announces a sudden acquisition of your current company, or in private life, if you cannot relate to that because your company was never acquired by any other company, your partner breaks up with you and you didn't see that coming. You're in shock. First phase, you're in shock. Second phase, denial. You try to do the business as usual. Yeah? At work, you call your old boss and say, like, boss, can I have vacation in August? Or you just do whatever you were doing, although the boss is not your boss anymore. The merger was just announced. In private life, you ask your soon-to-be ex-partner what they want for breakfast, and did they review the hotels for your next vacation? Yeah? Nothing happened. Then comes the anger and frustration. This is the moment where people start to complain in the company. When something happens, there is a management change or there is this acquisition. Privately, you swear to yourself you will never date anyone ever in life, because men and women, it doesn't matter who you fancy, they are just all no good. If there would be any application to a monastery, you're applying right now. Depression. Depression is the lowest phase of the change. This is where people start to search for new jobs. This is really like some of them switch off completely. There is absenteeism. This is important to give them emotional support and get them out of this depression. On private life also, yeah, everybody probably felt that at one time in their life, how it feels. If you manage to get them out of this depression and end this phase, it starts to get better. Experimenting. So you're starting to experiment with new hobbies or new circles, social circles. At work, people start to, okay, let's see, what is this new process? What is this new tool? Let's get to know this new manager. But it's still very, very cautious. They didn't buy in. Decision is the moment where they accept the change, and you already see the productivity and the morale goes up. They accepted it. They know that, okay, it's here to stay. Let's embrace it in some way. You maybe right now decided, okay, you're starting to date again, or you are going on a world travel because you are now free, you can decide for yourself. So you already have like your decision, you will live with this new environment. And integration is the part where everything gets to more or less stable state, and this is the new reality that you have after the change. So either everything starts to work better in the company after the merger, the processes get, So recognizing those stages is very helpful in building healthy work environment. What do I mean by this? I gave you here a couple of examples of what healthy work environment is. I will only mention 2 of each. For example, if people are asking for help, it is healthy to say, I don't know, can you help me? If meetings start with a chit-chat, so like some small talk, some jokes, also sign of a healthy work environment. On the opposite part, unhealthy work environment, absenteeism, finger pointing. And absenteeism, I don't mean that people are not there at work. I mean they are there, but only with the body. They don't really pay attention. They cannot focus really on what they are doing. Finger pointing, we don't focus on solving the problem. We are focusing first on finding whose fault is it. So healthy work environment and changes are very interconnected. Better chances for effective change you have if your work environment is healthy. Biggest pain points of change initiatives. There are 3 of them that I heard while talking to different managers or different leads. Communication chaos, employee resistance, and the productivity drop. If you think about that, actually the first and the second, this is the reason why the third happens, because if people cannot really communicate, they start to be resistant to change, and then the productivity drop is kind of a consequence of that. So I will tell you 5 strategies, my strategies, how to deal with change. I will give you a few examples, a few tools. Each of them will be built in the same way. But the first very important rule of change is to keep it cost smart and not to break the bank. Use what you already have first. This is both for the private changes or for the work-related changes. If you start already from implementing new tools, for example, it will be always more expensive than if you first look what you have and try to use it correctly. So, first of the strategies would be the lean process improvement. Eliminate, streamline, automate to save costs in this order. Don't automate before you eliminate. It's a waste of time and money. First, eliminate what you don't need, streamline it, then automate. Learn to use software correctly. You would be surprised how many people don't know how to use Outlook and set a rule. And use what you have. Not to lose people in that, involve them. Mind the workload. New processes will be a bigger workload for them, so mind it so that you don't put too much pressure on them, because then you are on the way to having the resistance to change. support their adaptation, and use tools like project management tools, workflow processes. Few names that you probably all know, only as examples of what you probably all have in the companies already. Cross-training. Versatile employees reduce costs, especially important for small companies that don't have thousands and thousands of employees waiting. So having versatile employees helps you to replace them. You have to know for that the ambitions and interest and show them opportunities, structured training, and allocate time for this training, because this takes time. Use LMS, Learning Management Systems, smart documentation, and again, different tools that you can use. And here also a little break. SMS, Subject Matter Expert, LMS, Learning Management System, lesson about communication, abbreviations, explain them. Otherwise, people might not understand. Maybe most of you knew SME, what does it mean? But I don't know if everybody knew what LMS is. So this is why I have put that on the slide. And this is also a very big lesson. If you want to be understood, then explain your abbreviations. Flexible allocation, identifying overspending, reviewing the contracts that you might have, flexible staffing models, so utilizing for smaller tasks external experts or part-time models, remote work option, cost-effective software. All that might save you costs, but avoid the drastic cost cutting for your employees. Provide some alternatives. So if you are, for example, cutting on travels, then provide online working possibilities, yeah? So things like that. Your communication should be really in top shape when you do cost cutting, so that you keep everybody on board. And you should make sure that your employees feel secure, that they are not scared about their job, because this is the first thing that the top talents do. They start to look around. Skills list, technology can help you in having, for example, skills list, because you have to know what you have first. For resource management, information radiators, helps in the communication. Of course, budgeting, expense tracking software. Also a few examples that you can use correctly to help you with that. You don't need super fancy software, especially if you're a small company. Well-being programs. Here I don't mean sending all the employees to sauna. I mean rather other offers. Why can it help? It can help employees deal with stress. It makes the absenteeism less. It helps make the burnout cases less that are really, really expensive. If you think about that, your top talent is suddenly for 2 months sick. What do you do? Less rehiring cost and caring employee. It does pay off in the loyalty of the employer. It pays off in the loyalty of employee. If you want to do that, you can do it in different ways. You can, for example, technology can help you with that by offering some library of, for example, webinars. You can use the same training platforms that you use for the cross-training. Also, you can utilize some other apps like Headspace, Calm, Self-API, offer to reimburse the costs, but offer people choice what they want to use, because maybe they don't want to use only the one that you offer them. So, for example, telling, okay, if you have an app subscription that helps you in meditating, I will take over the costs for that. You can choose the app. And feedback mechanisms, the last one. Feedback mechanisms especially is important for managers, because your employees, being on the ground level, they can tell you where you are actually sinking costs. So ask them. Ask them what do they think and if they have ideas. Because also input on the on the employee side, it is a very big step for well-being if you ask me my opinion, and it's a major step if you even act on this opinion. So if you're doing anything like surveys, you use software to do data analysis, track the next steps, make sure that those follow-ups and next steps really happen, because nothing makes the motivation to attend a survey smaller than if you ask people, they fill it out for 15 minutes or half an hour, and then you don't do anything with that. One simple truth about people. Now comes a quote not from me. People don't resist change. They resist being changed. So if you remember anything from this presentation, remember this. If you involve people in change, if you build change committees, if you grow yourself some change champions, it will be much easier than if you try to impose the change on them. Yes, and what do I mean with imposing the change on them? There are two different directions that the change can happen. And this is natural, because some changes, for example, reorganization, policy implementation, it will not happen from the employee level. It will happen from the management level. And it's okay like that because it provides a clear direction. So those changes coming from top to bottom, they do provide clear direction. This is where we're going. This is the North Star. And the bottom-up changes, there's different type of changes, like innovation initiatives or process improvements. Top managers, they don't work in the processes that employees do. It only can happen from the bottom. And this type of change fosters ownership and engagement because it comes from the people. If they get the support from the management, they will be super motivated to do this. Now, maybe you ask yourself, I don't know your roles here, if you're more leaders, managers, top management, or employees, but maybe you ask yourself, like, okay, but what can I do? Yeah, it's like, who is really taking care of this change? You can communicate clearly both on the employee level or on the manager level. Make sure that your communication is clear, that you're getting understood. This is why I said this, explain your abbreviations. For example, diverse perspectives help to have more innovative solutions. If you're an employee, that is very important. I'm observing this very often. People are scared to talk to managers. Even if they say we have an open door policy, barely ever somebody comes. I was just recently talking to our new boss of the company that I am currently working in as my full-time job. And he said, I'm offering those drop-in sessions where every employee can come and they can just drop in and they can ask me and get to know me because he's only 3 months right now at the company. And I asked, how is it used? And he said, like, sometimes I'm alone. Sometimes one person comes. And this is really something where he is so open, he wants to meet the people, they are afraid to come. You shouldn't be, because being proactive and starting a change initiative, getting the management on board, saying you would like to be a change champion, starting this bottom-up change initiative is really worth it, and management can help you with that. One important thing, support it with data. Whenever you go to management, support it with data, because they love data, and they love 3 colors, red, yellow, and green. So if you're able to get some kind of numbers, of text, of black on white, you will have much more better chances to get support from your management for the thing that you think would be good for the company. Because if you remember this picture, dreams versus reality, management for this surfing journey can provide you actually with equipment and some training to help you deal with change. So, I'm already almost at the end. Key takeaways, if you forget everything, I summarized a little bit what I was speaking about. So I was speaking in those 20 or 30 minutes, I don't know anymore, about reactions to change. I showed you the curve of emotional reaction to change. So the definitions also. I told you about the work environment, what is the difference between healthy and unhealthy, what symptoms can there be to recognize that, balancing strategies, how to deal with all those values in mind, like you want to keep your employees, but you don't want to overspend, and you want to use the technology that you maybe already have in the company. Change directions, top-bottom and bottom to up, and everyone's role in change and possibilities, how to have the role in change. And the biggest challenges, I also mentioned that, communication chaos, resistance, productivity drop. If you would like to know how your company is doing in terms of those 3 biggest pain points, in my LinkedIn profile, I have a short 3-minute quiz where you answer 12 questions and you get a summary of how does it look like based on those questions. We developed it with Nina together recently. And yes, that's it.